Just computer issues as is customary. At this time, we will call this meeting to order. May I please have a roll call?
Trustee DeBoer. Trustee Tretchell.
Aye.
Trustee Pfeiffer.
Here.
President Pfannerstill.
Here.
Trustee Walschlager.
Here.
Trustee Connor.
Here.
Trustee Hallquist.
Here.
If you'd all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance. All right. That's frozen. At this time, we have public comments for anybody that would like to come and speak in public comments. You can please step towards the podium. Do we have anybody on Zoom? Not for public. Last call for public comments. Okay. First item on the agenda is a consideration of village board minutes of July 24th, 2023.
I'll make a motion to approve village board minutes of July 24th, 2023.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the village board minutes from the July 24th meeting. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. The next items we have are items related to vouchers. We have consideration of contractor's application for payment number 1 to Wolf Paving Company in the amount of $594,450.68 for the 2023 paving program.
So Wolf Paving has completed the industrial park and River Reserve paving. So they are seeking a payment, their first payment application for the 2023 paving program. This includes Walnut Ridge Drive, James Richards Tree Ridge, and River Reserve Court. They're seeking the payment for $594,450.68.
I'll make a motion that we approve the payment of $594,450.68 to Wolf Paving.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the contractor's application for payment number 1 to Wolf Paving in the amount of $594,450.68. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. With that vote, that brings us to consideration of vouchers for payment in the amount of $1,428,376.03.
I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers in the amount of $1,428,376.03.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the payment of the vouchers for $1,428,376.03. Go ahead.
I have had most of my questions answered, except I did notice that we have, again, the $250, we're all total of $500 for mat services. Have we looked at the possibility of just letting them be vacuumed?
We are looking into it. DPW, admin, we have gotten a couple quotes from other mat companies. We are looking into it. It's not an instant change, but yeah, we're going to come up with some alternative.
With just letting the...
No, we'll probably buy our own mats and, you know, in the winter, replace them as needed. And we're just trying to, where did we all, we got at least two or three different quotes.
No, the second proposal will be here this week.
Okay, yep, we're looking into it.
We can't just go to a hardware store and buy them? I mean, I've got some in our garage that are the like the industrial kind.
Yeah, no, I mean, we have 40-some mats.
I'm talking about just for this building, because that's just for this building.
Yeah, that's what we have
correct?
in this building.
How many?
Oh, there's one there,
Yeah.
out in the hallways, upstairs.
So how many did you
Please.
say?
Oh,
There's 20-some.
20-some?
20-some? Okay,
They're all different sizes, too.
yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure we were at least looking at that.
Yep.
Let me just see if my other ones were answered. Yep, my other ones were answered. I'm done. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have actions related to licenses and permits. We have bartenders, operators licenses for Jamie Lemke, Samantha Garcia, and Heidi Weiss.
I'll make a motion to approve as read.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve those bartenders licenses for the 3 names that were read. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have consideration of a small street use permit for Melissa Cady Block Party September 16th, 2023. And this will happen at, I believe the location is 1001 River Reserve Drive.
That's my address. The location will be.
Can you please step towards the podium?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
That's my address. This is gonna be at the 100 block of Long Meadow where we had it last year.
Okay.
So it's kinda off of River Reserve and kinda a nice little pocket. 111 is where they're gonna kinda have it at their driveway. And then it just only affects, and I have the signatures from everyone that's kind of affected by it. And we don't need a rose closed sign, we just need the barricades, that's it. So it's pretty, from 4 to 8 on the September 16th. So, that's pretty much it. Same as last year.
I'll make a motion that we approve the block party.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to allow the block party requested by Melissa Cady to happen on September 16th, 2023 in the River Reserve subdivision.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. You're welcome. Thank you.
Should we bring something?
Yes, the fire truck's not available and ice cream.
Now we have a request for restricted species permit for 6 chickens. Up to 6 chickens. This is for Chandra and Brian Bronsted.
Chandra is on Zoom, and this is a renewal. So go ahead, Chandra.
Hi, nothing has changed since last year. I was given a permit for 6 chickens. We have not had any complaints. The same location, eggs are for our personal consumption, and the chickens are also pets.
I'll make a motion to approve the restricted species permit renewal for Chandra and Brian Bronsted.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to allow the restricted species permit renewal.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have item related to updated to the zoning code. First reading of a bill for an ordinance 882-23 for proposed floodplain zoning ordinance and map revisions that are required by the state and federal law. These revisions govern development in mapping floodplain areas.
All right, so this is a requirement of all municipalities. We spoke with the DNR and the Department of Revenue and the EPA that are requiring this. So we've gone through with our legal counsel. They are updating it. We're going to have Muni code renumber, relabel everything upon approval. If we would not approve this, we just would have no flood insurance available for any people or us within the floodplain. So we're kind of forced to do this. Scott Hussinger, Dave Falconer, and I did talk to him about that, you know, we did this 10 years ago, and essentially they said, you have to do it. So we really have no option. It doesn't really affect us in most ways. Scott is our zoning administrator. I would say essentially all of the floodplain land is village-owned, whether it's the fire department or areas like that.
Of the land in this flood zone is the village-owned.
So not a huge, but again, this is just a first reading. And we have to set a public hearing. We have to have 2 publications. One will be in the paper tomorrow, one will be in the paper Saturday. And then we will have, hopefully, if you guys set it in the next step, a public hearing August 28th with an approval, if we suspend the rules at that point so that we can get it into the DOR to submit it to the feds.
Ryan, I just want to clarify that there are no floodplain boundaries moving.
Correct, it's just
Okay.
language,
I
just
want to
verbiage.
clarify that. Okay, thank you.
That concludes the first reading.
I'll make a motion to,
We don't need it. It's just
yeah,
the
we
first
do,
reading.
for the August 28th hearing.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was going to do.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I skipped ahead.
Sorry, no, that's okay.
Okay, so I just said it. I'll set the public hearing for August 28th,
Second.
28th.
of August 28th.
Yeah.
Second.
Yes.
It's been moved and seconded to set the public hearing date of August 28th, 2023. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have items that were referred from the July 17th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting. Village Board review and consideration of Hartland Quarry, a proposed PUD development whose approval and rezoning is being sought by Three Leaf Partners LLC on property tax keys HAV 0730981, HAV 0730985, HAV 0730986, and HAV 0730987, located at 700 and 701 West Capitol Drive. I'll go through them. It says the Plan Commission will review and consider. We have proposed preliminary site and building plans for 10 multifamily apartments, 240 units, and 3 townhomes of 27 units total. Proposed plans for amenities for the project, proposed rezoning in conjunction with PUD agreement in the project, and proposed petition for a planned unit development. And then we have consideration of setting a date for public hearing for September 25th, 2023, which is the main item that's been coming forward from the Plan Commission, is to get that date set. It's been requested by the Plan Commission to set that date for the public hearing.
So real quick before John with Three Leaf gets going, this went through 2 meetings with the Plan Commission. It's moved forward up to the Village Board. There are a number of contingencies that we are working through. There would be a public hearing September 25th. Final approval would be October 9th, I believe. There's some TIF component to it, which we'll talk about in the next item. But this will be the Village Board's first review of it. There are 3 total reviews at the Village Board level. Do you want to start? Do you want me to see if Ben can get the video going? Or do you want to?
I think I'll start and then
Okay.
Jolie will talk about architectural. Good evening. My name is John Ford, president of Three Leaf Partners. We are a full-service real estate development company headquartered here in southeast Wisconsin and in front of you this evening with the Hartland Quarry project. The development project is located at 700 West Capitol Drive, totaling approximately 45 acres for the entire site. This unique and very challenging site poses a number of added levels of consideration to make this development a success. Since late 2022, we have been evaluating and collaboratively working with the village staff and consultants to find a successful solution for this site. What we'll be explaining and showing here this evening is that effort, which if approved, will in the years to come take this currently extremely underutilized, challenging site and turn it into approximately 267 residential units that'd be home to approximately 500 residents for Hartland. The overall economic impact of this project into the community and surrounding area will be significant. We do have our entire project team here, either in person or joining virtually this evening, in order to be most efficient with your time and answer any questions that you may have. Certainly any questions that may come up that we don't have an answer for this evening, we'll be sure to get those to village staff and back to you in short order. At Three Leaf Partners, our motto is impact through real estate, and we accomplish this in a variety of different ways, including economic impact, job impact, community impact. Many of our projects have a scholarship impact with nonprofits that we work with, and more. This project is certainly no different. In addition to the significant impact this project can and will have financially to the greater Hartland community, it will also have impacts including meeting continued housing demand, continued housing options for your residents, improved overall quality of life, and more. Hartland Quarry is a 267-unit multifamily development with a total estimated cost of approximately $93 million. JLA Architects is an experienced multifamily architect that we at Three Leaf have worked on with multiple projects in the past. JLA owner Joe Lee is joining us this evening virtually. Joe will walk us through the overall architectural, site plan, and finishes for the project. Following Joe's presentation, we will play the fly-through animation video of the development to provide a very comprehensive, realistic visual idea for you of what we are proposing. Joe, do you want to walk them through the architectural side?
Absolutely. Thanks, John. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. As I understand it, you'll be sharing the materials on screen?
I can do that. Which exhibit do you want to open?
Exhibit
Exhibit
C.
C, the
Yeah.
architectural?
If it's easier, I can also share. Whatever's easier.
Second. You can share. Are you able to share?
I can if you'd like me to.
Yep.
Okay.
It should be available for you to just pop it up now.
All right. Stand by then. All right, does everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. So as John had said, this is a very challenging site due to the topography of the site and the surrounding area that has resulted in a very challenging shape and proportion of the site, site access, relationship to the surrounding context, and site circulation within the site, even with both pedestrian and vehicular access. And like John said, we've worked for a couple of years on this now with a lot of input from many stakeholders, including the village, and we're really excited about the resulting master plan here, which is in front of you. And what this is a high quality residential enclave, we're calling it, that sits into its surrounding context, but it does have an identity and a sense of place of its own. You'll see here when we get into the architecture and the imagery as well. It's also a pedestrian friendly design, which was a challenge because of the shape and the proportion. We have to accommodate vehicles, of course, but we didn't want the development to be an image of vehicularly dominated. So we did a good job at creating different zones for pedestrians and different zones for vehicles, which we'll get into in a second. So we've created a real walkable residential enclave with these boulevard connections. You can see the entry here. This is a main spine boulevard that goes down the narrow portion of the site. And it's lined, we have two different types of residential building types. We have stacked flat units, which are these buildings labeled SF. We have 10 of those, so SF1 through SF10. And those are 2-story apartment buildings that have tucked under garages. And then they also have some surface parking and some supplemental parking with detached garages. We also have 3-story or 3-level townhome units, which you see here. These are mostly on the south side of the development, fronting Capitol Drive. And then we also have a common amenity building, which we're labeling the clubhouse, you'll see here. So as we enter the site, it has a real distinct entry in this boulevard spine, which you'll see is very pedestrian oriented, coming down to this turnaround, vehicular turnaround, and then we have an enclave of 4 additional stacked flat buildings organized around a common green. So these areas that I'm highlighting here, that spine and this common green, are really pedestrian friendly and gives this development a sense of place. They're very walkable. We've also created this, like I said before, the zone of vehicular access. That's where all the garages are. The garages are in the back of these buildings, both the attached garages and the detached. And we also have other service amenities for the site, like refuse and mail kiosks on that back end as well. I'm going to go to the next here. Here you can see the garages. The pink are enclosed garages. The blue or purple are driveway stalls, surface parking. And then we also do have a little bit of surface parking as well. And mainly that's in the more, what we're calling, I guess, the pedestrian realm, where these are more parallel parking, convenient parking stalls that help accentuate the public realm. Here again is a diagram that we've highlighted where snow storage would go, where the dumpster enclosures would be, and where mailbox kiosks or mailbox clusters would be as well. So again, those things are all in the behind the buildings to allow that service to occur and not interrupt the more walkable community. We'll first get into the townhome buildings. I won't get into a lot of detail. You can ask questions on these, but these are 3-story apartment units. We have a mix of 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom units, ranging from about 1,550 square feet to 1,650. The architecture is probably what you're more interested in at this point, but really high quality design. We wanted a traditional aesthetic, but with a bit of a contemporary flair to it. So you can see here, we do have the traditional forms, the gables, the bays, the front porches, the big windows, but we do treat it with a little bit of a different contemporary flair. So we do have stone veneer, which is the gray material you'll see here. This brownish material you'll see here is the simulated wood paneling, vertical siding. And then we also do have a board and batten material, which is the white as well. And these materials will be consistent throughout all of the buildings, but just used a bit differently. We have the clubhouse as well. I won't get into the plans, but we'll be happy to answer any questions. But the architectural aesthetic is consistent with what I talked about in the townhome building, traditional forms with quality materials. Again, the same stone, the same simulated wood, and the same board and batten. Here's some views of looking down. There's an aerial looking down at that clubhouse building. You can see the pool and the pool deck. Off to the right, you can see those townhome buildings. And then we have the stacked flats again. The thing to point out here is that ground level garages for each of the units that are spread out and broken down in the architecture, and also in the rear of the building. And then again, the architecture aesthetic is very similar, using the same materials, the stone, using a little bit of a different manner on these buildings, the vertical board and batten, and the simulated wood siding as well. I won't get into the garages. If you have any questions, we can certainly come back to that. Here's some other visuals. This is looking, an aerial view looking down that pedestrian boulevard, that main spine. It accommodates the vehicles, but also is a great pedestrian friendly atmosphere. Another view of that. This is looking from the entry. You can see the clubhouse on the left, the townhome buildings flanking that, and then that center spine with the stacked flats on either side of that spine, that boulevard. And then here's some examples of the exterior materials on a real life building. You can see the board and batten, the stone. You know, we're using both the gray and the white, and then some examples of the stone, and then the simulated wood vertical siding as well. That's it for this. I can stop sharing, and unless there's any questions, or we could go ahead and play. Hopefully you have that queued up, that video, that animation.
So in addition to the significant focus, obviously, that you saw in the architectural design that we put into this project, or have put so far, an equal amount of focus and time has been spent on the civil design, given the overall site and its extreme challenges. Payne & Dolan is a very experienced engineering company and civil engineer on this project. We've worked with them on many projects in the past. Their knowledge of both this site and similar quarry sites has been vital throughout this process. Craig Dauncey is an engineering manager with Payne & Dolan, and Nick Olson on his team has been working this project. Craig is out this week on vacation, but Nick is with us here in person just to give us kind of a high-level civil overview for the site.
As John said, Payne & Dolan, we are the civil engineer, basically working with JLA on site layout, utility design, and slope stability. With obviously it being a ex-quarry, there were some difficulties with the just working through some of those walls, getting some slope stability. We've been working with Mike at Geotest, and Bob at Endpoint. I believe he was on the Zoom. We've also obviously been working with Ryan at R&M, the village engineer. Recently we spoke regarding fire hydrants and their layout, which obviously will be part of that final design. We have a 8-inch private looped water main with 6-inch laterals to each building. 8-inch sanitary with 6-inch laterals also to each building. Ponds that will be infiltrated within the site, and all of the water will be able to access all buildings with the layout of the water main that I didn't touch on. But yeah, is there any questions regarding that? Obviously.
Soil conditions, obviously, for the site are extremely important, to say the least, and to understand the overall design and how does that all fit. Mike Freedy from Geotest, an experienced senior engineer with outstanding knowledge and experience. Mike will give an overview of the geotechnical work that's been completed to date, as well as next steps as we continue to move this development forward. We've worked extensively with village consultant PSI with regards to the geotechnical work and the overall plan that they have come up with. Mike will summarize the latest geotechnical developments as we move the project forward, including the slope stability analysis and the additional borings that were completed last week. Mike?
Good evening. As a geotechnical engineer, we were focusing initially on two aspects of the project: the existing soil conditions that exists inside the property and the big slopes that line the perimeter of the property. And are those slopes stable? And will they be stable after the civil engineers design the site grades? Regarding the existing soil conditions, primarily in the southwestern part of the property where the existing buildings exist, those soils are native soils. There was no quarrying or mining that occurred in that area. As you move farther to the north and to the east, that's where the pit existed, and the ground slopes off quite a bit. In some areas, about 50 feet. So when you get along the east property boundary and the north property boundary and a little bit on the northwest, the bluffs are anywhere from 50 to 85 feet high. So this development is going to consist of leveling the base of the pit to facilitate the development and the new buildings. So near Capitol Drive, those buildings will be constructed on native soils, soils that, are there now. But as you move farther into the property, the buildings will be built on fill that will be placed to raise the deep parts of the pit up higher. And in some areas, that fill is going to be north of 20 feet. So a lot of effort will be put into making sure that those fills are placed and compacted sufficiently for the buildings to sit on them and that the buildings won't move. That'll be our job. The property right now in the central part of the pit has a lot of fill, almost entirely concrete rubble. There's a lot of concrete rubble. All of that material is going to be removed and crushed, and then that aggregate will be reused as fill on the property. The intent is to take anywhere where there's existing fill, remove that material down to the base or the bottom of the pit. So we get down to native soils. And then from there, we're going to build it back up in layers, placed and compacted and tested. So everything, utilities, buildings, pavements will all be supported either on suitable native soils or on what we call engineered fill, which would be material that has been placed, compacted, and tested. Just about everything that exists out there is granular. It's sands and gravels. Water flows through it well. It's going to be pretty straightforward in compacting it and making sure that it's suitable. There was a small area in the central part that had some clays and silts. Those materials can be suitable for structural support, but they can be challenging to deal with when you're moving them and placing and compacting them. So we'll be observing those materials as well to make sure that they're suitable. If they're not, they will also be removed. So ultimately, everything that will be in place will be structurally capable of supporting the loads. I think I pretty much covered it. Certainly available if there's questions.
I have one question. What about the leaking tank that's on site?
Yeah, so that is being handled by Endpoint Solutions, the environmental consultant, and that will be addressed during construction. So the tank, again, I'm not filling that role, but since I'm talking, that tank was approved for closure, I think, early 90s. The contamination was tested, and the DNR determined that it was okay, not a health risk. But during construction, some of those soils are going to be removed to create the final grades. And Endpoint will also be on the property at the time of construction, ensuring that there isn't anything that the DNR isn't aware of that's there. And if it is, that will be also handled. There will be a soil management plan that will be in place. If I could address one thing that I didn't, that is we just wrapped up additional testing of the soils around the perimeter of the pit up on top. So we drilled borings along Palmer Road, along Hill Street, and then over by the cemeteries to make sure that we understood the soil profile that makes up the embankments. The drilling was extremely difficult. There's a lot of cobbles and boulders, but there were no surprises. We were looking for anything like groundwater or perched water that's stuck in between layers, anything that could produce like a slip surface. We didn't find any. We are also looking for clay layers or silt layers that could also potentially cause an area of, say, a landslide. We did not see any of those either. The soil profile throughout our borings, and our borings went as deep as 70 feet from the top down below the bottom of the pit. It was all sand and gravel. So we're comfortable with the soils, and we're providing that information to Payne and Dolan as part of their civil design. Okay, thanks.
Ryan, is the Zoom completely off? Or is Bob still on there from Endpoint, or? So obviously equally important to the civil and geotech is the environmental, and understanding those conditions and how they affect the overall design. Endpoint Solutions is a leader in assessing environmental conditions that we have partnered with as well on previous projects. Bob Segal is owner and principal of Endpoint Solutions and oversees the environmental conditions for the project. This includes the currently in process Phase 2 site analysis that will include submittal of an application for exemption to the DNR. I know, Ann, you asked about the LUS cases, as the DNR calls them, for leaking underground storage tanks. There's 2 of those. Bob can probably further expand on that, but yes, obviously those would be addressed during the process.
Good evening. Bob Segali here from Endpoint Solutions. Yes, as John said, and just to clear up right off the bat, there are no known leaking tanks on the site at this time. There is a leaking underground storage tank case with residual contamination that is on the site that we will be doing additional investigation of this Friday. It falls, the residual area of contamination falls beneath one of the townhouse buildings off the main street through the development. So we will be doing additional soil borings, soil samples, and groundwater samples to get an idea as to what are the current conditions regarding that residual contamination that was left behind when they closed that case. And then using that information to determine the proper methods to deal with that residual contaminated soil and groundwater during development. Obviously, anything that is done out there is going to be done with the utmost safety in mind. So we are looking, for any concerns regarding vapor intrusion into the buildings or direct contact with soils or things like that, that could be a concern. So that will be the Phase 2 that we're performing Friday of this week. The other concern we had with the site going into this, obviously, was the fill material that Mike had just talked about on the, the northern portion of the site. A lot of fill has been placed. We did tag along with the geotech when they did some test pit sampling out there. I believe we did 9 or 10 locations, randomly chosen by the geotech to get a good cross section across the site. At each of those test pit locations, we collected soil samples for laboratory analysis, volatiles, heavier fraction called PAHs, and metals. Out of the 10 test pit samples that we collected, there was only one that had some low-level PAHs, heavier fraction, the type of petroleum that you typically see in like asphalt, things of that nature. And the fact that a lot of the fill that was placed on the site apparently came from some sewer projects within the village. The thought of asphalt being included in those soils was not beyond the realm of possibility. Therefore, that is what we're looking for there. As John said, as part of our submittal to DNR, we'll be doing an application for exemption to construct on a historic fill site. And as part of that, we will have to develop a very detailed material management plan that will discuss those soils, how they will be addressed as the development proceeds. And part of that requirement is for an experienced environmental professional to be on site while those soils are being moved. Therefore, rather than trying to find contamination with 2-inch diameter soil samples or bucket with test pits, we'll be out there while the actual soil is being moved around to identify any areas of contamination that may be encountered, to be able to segregate that material, get it out of the process so it's not getting placed back into the site for reuse, and make sure it's managed properly and that we can have a clean site at the end and we're not just moving contamination around. So that's kind of the long and short of the environmental side of things right now. As of Friday, we'll be out there doing some drilling. And once we have that information, we will put together the application for exemption with material management plan and get that all submitted to the WDNR for their review and approval.
So I know we've talked about a lot of the technical side. Let me just kind of summarize up the development, and then we'll open up for any questions you all may have. Like I mentioned, total development costs around $93 million is the estimate right now. 240 units of the two-story stacked flat buildings. There's 10 of those buildings at 24 units each, along with 3 9-unit townhome buildings of 27 units for a total of 267 units, plus the clubhouse, which is approximately 5,500 square feet. The unit breakdown, this includes 1, 2, and 3 bedroom unit apartments. 1 bedrooms is 100 1 bedrooms, which is 38%. The 2 bedrooms are 121, which is 45%. And the 3 bedrooms are 46 at 17%. Units range in size from just over 700 square feet to just over 1,600 square feet. Rents will range from approximately $1,400 up to around $3,000 for those large units. From an amenity standpoint, we talked about the clubhouse, which will include a state-of-the-art fitness center, along with there's sidewalks and walking paths throughout. If you add up all the sidewalks and walking paths throughout the site, there's approximately 2 miles in total. There'll be a dog run area, grilling areas, playground area for kids, pool community room for parties and so forth, and more. The overall project schedule, we estimate, the site work will take approximately 3 months, along with vertical construction would take about 18 months for an estimate of around 21 months in total. From a zoning standpoint, we're proposing the RM1 with PUD overlay and a CSM. We would request that for the townhomes that the zoning would allow flexibility of either RM1 or RM3 with the PUD overlay to allow the flexibility of either rentals or owner-occupied units or condos. Total site, as we mentioned, is 45 acres. The open space, or essentially the area that we're not touching, is approximately 60% of that, about 27.2 acres. The actual developable area is just over 18 acres, which is 40% of the site. From a parking standpoint, each of the units has enclosed garage stalls, 294 in total for the 267 units. In addition to that, there's 294 surface stalls, along with 54 street parking and 19 additional stalls at the clubhouse. Grand total of 661, which is 2.48 stalls per unit. Your code, section 46-923, would essentially state that we would need 613 stalls for this development, or 2.29 stalls per unit. So we're above your code. From a traffic standpoint, TADI did perform a comprehensive traffic analysis, which was done in conjunction with the potential proposed quick trip adjacent to us. This development meets their recommendations, including sidewalk running along the north side of Capitol. They wanted us to clear the trees away, which we would obviously do for additional visibility along Capitol, construct primary entrance at Capitol and Vedelson with a stop sign control. Our property lines up, as you saw on the renderings and images, directly with Vedelson. And we would support the village installing that right turn island on Vedelson to eliminate the westbound traffic that has been cutting that corner. From an economic standpoint, we've estimated about 300 construction jobs for this overall project throughout the duration. There's 480 total bedrooms, and the total residents we estimate between 400 and 500 at full build-out. If you take each of the individuals that will be living at this facility, at this development, and spending at the shops and restaurants here in Hartland, 500 residents at $250 per person per month adds up to about $30 million of economic impact over a 20-year period. The estimated assessed value, we have been working with both Ehlers and the village assessor on this project. The village assessor estimates that this project will be assessed between $45 and $49 million, creating in the neighborhood of $500,000 of incremental taxes. We've been collaboratively working with Ehlers for the past number of months, and I know it's next on the agenda. The objective from village staff and Ehlers has been from the beginning that this is a self-supporting TIF request. So why do we need TIF to support this project? extremely challenging site. The site work alone is north of $8 million to do what we've talked about here. We also talked about the environmental costs. Construction costs remain high. Economic conditions, interest rates, as we all know and hear about, in order to achieve a market return in our eyes of 13%, in order to attract approximately $28 to $30 million for this development to Hartland. As we mentioned, we're working with Ellers on a workable solution. We've modified to the 267 units for those that have followed this project from the beginning. Village staff has iterated the importance of trying to find a pay-go option as opposed to a upfront TIF request. And if we can make the numbers work, as developer, we are certainly supportive of a 100% pay-go option. We have submitted our request to Ellers, which they are reviewing currently, on 100% pay-go developer-funded TIF to reduce the risk to the village. The total present value of that request is approximately $7.9 million over the life of the TIF. That would be approximately 8.5% of the total estimated costs for the project. I'll leave you with this. Your comprehensive plan includes 3 objectives that really kind of stood out that I think this project helps to continue to address. The first one is range of housing and types and sizes. As I mentioned, there's 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units ranging from 700 to 1,600 square feet that will appeal to multiple generations and renters in the community. 2, it stated that multifamily vacancy rate should be between 4% and 6%. We did perform a very detailed third-party market study of this area by Tracy Cross. The Class A multifamily market is extremely tight in this area, at just north of 2% currently. In addition to that, they forecast demand in North Waukesha County per year of 405 units through 2027. And third, conform with Village's smart growth plan. The requested zoning and use that we have proposed in the Hartland, it matches what you have in your Hartland 2045 smart growth plan. The map identifies the site as being targeted for high-density residential. When we say high-density residential, that's 8 to 18 units per acre. We are proposing the 267 units is 14 units per acre, and that's using the developable land, the 18 acres in total. With that, we'll certainly be happy to answer any questions that you may have from any of our team members.
I have a question. I noticed that you had the parking stalls broken out, where you had covered parking, driveway parking, and street parking. The driveway stalls, is that what is right outside the garage door?
Correct.
Okay, and is that open to anyone to park there? Are you gonna have lines painted for parking there, so it is a designated parking space?
There won't necessarily be lines painted there, no.
Because I don't think those can be counted then as parking.
Yeah, they can.
If they're in front of the garage?
Yes. Yeah, because we have enough space that's on the site plan to accommodate a vehicle behind each and every one of those garages. So they would not, the vehicle would not be sticking out into the actual drive aisle.
And then you did say something about the turning lanes going, so we are gonna put the turning lanes in on the road, correct? On the, I call it the ramp, West Capitol, going up to 83. So we'll have a turning lane there, so you'll have the people who are just going up to the stop sign, and then you'll have a turning lane to go into the development. Is that correct?
I'm not sure exactly where you're referring to, Ann. Where, up towards 83?
Is there going to be a turning lane turning into the development?
No.
You don't
There'd
think
be
we
a
need one?
direct entrance. Taddy, which I think is in your packets, they have a exhibit that has all the different, whether it's Quick Trip or our development.
I know it was brought up
what's
at Planning
what's
Commission that we
required.
thought that that would be something we need to look at. That's why I was wondering if it has been looked at since then.
I think Quick Trip was gonna have a right turn only into their initial, their Yeah, their
Coming
northern
east.
entrance, they were gonna have a right turn only in there. You couldn't go out, but then you were gonna go out on the south side. to
If
get-
you're coming from 83 headed eastbound.
Yeah.
Correct. Correct.
I thought maybe, Ann, you were talking about Vettleson Road, the right turn lane, is what I thought you were
Well, I call
discussing.
it capital. I just think if, I think there should be a turning lane there.
Into Quick Trip, into our development?
Well, I'm not
into-
dealing with them right now. I'm just talking about what we're talking about now is the development of the quarry. And if you're going up if you're heading west on West Capitol and you want to turn right into the development, and you're slowing down, you've got cars behind you, again, I think there should be a turning lane so they can get to the right and turn in and other traffic can still go through. Because that's quite a few residents where we have turning lanes for, what is the North 40 called again? Up on top of the hill on K. Overlook. We had a turning lane there.
It's on a 45-mile-an-hour highway.
And but we had them put in at other ones too, down on, if you go east of there. And it's just something that I know we talked about in planning commission, and it's something I think should be looked at.
I think Patty's study showed that, that it wasn't needed, but
Yeah, they absolutely looked at it. I'm happy to pose that question to them again. On the exhibit, they go through very detailed, the traffic analysis, the counts, the points that they have the counts to see what is justified where. Obviously, they're very experienced, but in their opinion, based on all the counts for this development at these counts, and, they take into account the total population and everything, they did not determine that an actual right turn lane or taper lane coming into the development.
Is that what it's called, a taper lane? Okay. Oh, I didn't know that's what it was called. Okay.
I have a question with regards to the increased residents. How does that impact the water consumption in the village of Hartland? Any concerns there at all?
We store 1.6 million gallons in reservoir, and the village of Hartland averages 900,000 gallons a day. So we're fine with the
We're
water.
in a real good situation there.
Yes, the pressure will be phenomenal down there as well.
Great.
The sewer utility would have two upgrades that are needed regardless of what goes there, because the Easy Street apartments up on Palmer are actually City of Delafield that 15 years ago we let go into our sewer, and that affects our sewer. So as part of the TIF, we've talked about, I think I got numbers today from Rupert and Milky. Depends on obviously how construction costs continue to go, but probably about $800,000 of upgrades is, I believe, what he gave me today, in that range. So,
But that's regardless.
regardless of what goes there, the issue is that we have a bottleneck, because all of this sewer runs under the train tracks and over towards DPW, so everything just bottlenecks in there. So no matter what kind of development goes there, we will have to have some kind of sewer upgrade.
That sewer upgrade be needed with Quick Trip, regardless of what happens with this?
No. Quick Trip is only 13 DUEs for an entire Quick Trip. This project would be 267 DUEs, so.
Anybody else?
It was a great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. We'll roll right into this next item. But do we want to take up a public hearing? Yeah, unless people don't want to, but I would entertain a motion to set the public hearing for September 25th.
I'd make a motion that we set the public hearing for September 25th, 2023.
second.
It's been moved and seconded to set the public hearing for September 25th. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have a discussion on TIF feasibility.
John pretty much gave my presentation, so thank you. We've been going back and forth on this for a while. As he stated, this is a very difficult site. It's an old quarry. There's $8 million of cost for them just to get this essentially kind of ready. We're working with Ellers. Greg Johnson is here with Ellers right now. We're waiting on a couple figures from Three Leaf so that Ellers can run some models and come up with some things, but we're hopeful to have it resolved by September. Well, we have to have it resolved by September 25th so that everybody has an idea of what that is. As John stated, the TIF request, everything's time value of money. So the TIF options are we could have the village taking debt at 5%, pay it off over 27 years. That's a huge burden on our debt limit and more risk on the village. The PAYGO, the developer has an opportunity to, everything is funded through them. There is no village outlay for it, no debt, nothing associated with that. So we're working towards that right now. But obviously, there's time value of money. $7 million today, is really 15 or 16 down the road. So we're working with Ellers and Three Leaf. Greg, do you have anything to state? Just say hi.
It's the best presentation I was going to give all week. No, Ryan summarized it well, and so did John. So I think we're trying to kind of work through the issues. It's really not about whether or not TIF assistance is needed on this project. I think we recognize that it is. It's the amount and how that assistance is structured is really what we're focusing on. And really, we've kind of tried to shift that to that PAYGO model, which just means that as tax increment gets generated annually from this project, that's the revenue stream that's available to reimburse for a specified number of costs. So it mitigates some of the financial risks to the village, which are not borrowing money up front, and really the reimbursement back to the developer is only paid in full if the tax increment from the project itself generates enough tax revenue to pay for it. So that's kind of where we've been moving towards to just kind of finalize the appropriate dollar amount in that particular PAYGO structure. So the timeline, assuming something gets worked out that I think we're comfortable recommending, village staff is comfortable recommending, works for Three Leaf, is there would be a public hearing before the Plan Commission on September 25th to consider the creation of a TIF district. When you create a TIF district, approval by the Plan Commission is required. It's not a recommendation of the village board, it's a requirement of approval. If the Plan Commission would approve the creation of a TIF district, it would go to the village board 2 weeks later on October 9th. And then that approval is required by village board as well. And if it gets those approvals, it goes back to a body that's called the Joint Review Board that consists of all the taxing jurisdictions and a public member. They would have the final say in terms of the creation of the TIF district. So we're really trying to kind of put a proposal together that makes sense before we would go through that formal process. But those would be the next steps beyond what we were just talking about this evening.
Real quick, another thing that makes this project a little tougher is interest rates, as you know, have gone way up. So there's a higher interest rate for them, or if we did the debt for us, and construction costs have gone up significantly. So that's some of the hurdles in trying to get to the figures, but we're working through it, and we'll have something by September 25th. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we have item. Oh, yeah. We're going to recess for a few minutes. So we'll reconvene in 4 to 5 minutes.
Yep.
Okay, we'll get back to order here. So we have a discussion and consideration of lights for the pickleball courts at Nixon Park.
Referred to the village board coming from the park board. Staff was asked by user groups, tennis and pickleball users, about adding lights to the Nixon Park new pickleball courts. The research was found that this could be accomplished by adding a couple lights. It's recommended to put 30-foot lights on there. The reasoning for that is so you're cast a light down and it doesn't go out into the residential areas. These lights would be used for early in the season, the April, Mays, and then September and October, and then October 15th they'll be turned off when the rest of the park gets shut down. So we sought out of just one proposal. We'll seek out more if this is approved. And that first proposal was not to exceed $17,000. I do want to note on these lights, it will close down as usual, just like the park. So the beer garden has to close down at night, so these lights will be timed and they'll automatically will not work after 9 o'clock. And they won't be on all the time. You have to push the button, or we haven't decided if we're gonna have a push button or if we're gonna have motion detectors if you're on the courts to activate them, turn them on. So we're still working through that. This would be used for paid for by impact money, so there'd be no tax burden on village residents and the taxpayers. Staff is recommending moving forward with Nixon Park to keep the park moving in a positive direction.
I think it's great, and the fact that there's no tax burden. I would propose that we move forward with lighting the pickleball courts with a proposal like you've got or less than what you've got, not to exceed $17,000.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. It's been moved and seconded to approve the not to exceed $17,000. Whether or not they get additional, or if they get additional.
Well, either said they're gonna move forward with getting additional proposals, so.
Yeah, I think we need two more.
Yeah, 17 grand or something less than that.
I just wanted to make sure to know the motion.
Yeah.
So that's the motion that's on the floor. In jumping in, I would agree with Rick Connor that it should pop back once they got two more. And
That's
make
fine.
sure that we. Well, if it's not to exceed seven, never mind.
That's what I was gonna say. We can share the quotes with the boards.
Yeah.
When we have all three. If this was the lowest, we'll move forward. If there's lower, I think you'll be happy.
Well, that's where I'm at, is as long as it's less than what we've seen already, there's no tax impact. Hopefully one of the other two bids will come back cheaper and we'll all be happy next time we see each other. But I think we should roll forward and get this thing in motion.
Once I get the
Yeah.
things.
Or just propose it at whatever meeting comes up. after we
Okay,
have the
sounds
two.
great.
And it'll just be an update.
Okay.
Are those, are they LED?
Yes, they are.
They are, okay. Oh, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Okay, now we have other items for consideration. We have discussion and consideration of Cottonwood storm sewer repair.
So we talked about this a little bit at our CIP meeting. There's a 60-inch storm sewer west of Cottonwood Avenue, and then it feeds into dual 48-inch, and then it comes back to a 60-inch, and then into the Bark River. So one of them 48-inch storm sewer pipes, they're 8-foot sections. They have separated right underneath the island of Cottonwood on the north side of the railroad tracks. So I looked at a couple different options. We looked at CIP lining, which is it's a resin that a sewer company puts in there, and they can inflate it with hot air, steam, and it adheres to the pipe that's in there already, the main pipe, and it has structural integrity, so it has strength and it'll hold up well. And then I also talked to an underground company about excavating it. Their concern was that the other 48-inch pipe is only 4 feet away. Their concern was that they're going to cause damage to the other side. So they, he basically outright told me, he said, you can do whatever you want, but he said, my proposal would probably be $90,000 because it's time and material. And this resin CIP lining is $70,805 to repair it. This money will come out of the storm sewer account. Staff is recommending hiring Vision Sewer Incorporated to complete the sewer lining for the sum of $70,805 this year, because we don't want to lose any more of that road on Cottonwood by the railroad tracks.
And that's what I was gonna say, the reason we're bringing this forward, they brought it up during the CIP, if you remember. It's kind of become an emergency at this point. I think you said we think it might be settling somewhere, we may be having issues. I really don't want Cottonwood to collapse right by the train tracks. When would they do the work?
So they don't carry material that big. It'll take 2 weeks to get the material in, so they'll do it within the next month and a half.
This would be coming out of the Fund 401, the Capital Projects Fund.
That's correct.
I'll make a motion to approve the Cottonwood storm sewer repair for visual sewer.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the Cottonwood storm sewer repair. Any discussion?
Yeah, Dave, is this a Band-Aid to a bigger problem, or is this a
No,
isolated?
So what we do is if we have, our old sewer pipes are concrete and they get pitted after a while from all the acid in the sewage system. What we do there is we also do CIP lining, and you come back 20 years, all it is you're lining it with this resin, and it's like putting a plastic sleeve right through the middle of it. But the nice part about this CIP lining, it adheres to the host pipe, so it'll grab a hold of it.
Awesome.
Since it's storm, we can do it, but not water.
Got you.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have discussion and consideration on 2023 tree planting.
So we plant trees every year. A lot of them are for occupancies. What we do is we do occupancies, the new construction from May to May. Once they get their lawn established, the developers give us money to go plant the trees after the fact. So there's some of them trees, and then we also have trees that village staff, DPW, removes throughout the year. We're still removing emerald ash and some buckthorn and other trees and in the right-of-way. So we budgeted, not knowing the amount of trees, we budgeted in the 2023 budget for $25,000. We put it out to I take that back, 4 different tree companies. We only received 2 proposals back for the street trees and the subdivision trees. Dan Larson, Landscaping Incorporated, came in at a low at $32,199. So like I stated, we did budget $25,000, so the village board could remove some trees and get it down to the budgeted amount, or board could decide to take this contract in place and replace the trees for full occupancy, and also the street trees in the right-of-way. I will tell you that trees for the occupancy, the new homes, came in at $13,967, and the street tree replacements that DPW removed came in at $18,232. Like I state, staff would like to move forward with planting street trees, and we'd like to award the bid to Dan Larson Landscaping Incorporated to $32,199.00.
Dave, how many trees did you think you were going to get at 25,000? I'm just curious. I mean, you didn't know? Just
We didn't
crapshoot?
know, yeah. So the problem is the street trees went through the roof. And we're gonna have to maybe rethink that. Village board a couple of years ago told us instead of replacing every tree that we remove on the right-of-way, we came up with a letter, and we sent a letter, and we wait for their response for the residents that we remove trees in front of their house. And this year, the response was better than last year. So it's really unknown how many residents want trees in front of their house.
Dave, can we take out some, I mean, do we have to have these ones that are real expensive, like $550 and $430?
So a lot of them trees were okayed by planning commission and the village board, ARC board.
This was per the developer. So
This
when the
is-
development went in, they said, we're having these trees.
Okay.
We charge a certain dollar amount that meets all these requirements based off of updated fees that we get. So we get enough money to cover all those trees. So we have to put those trees in.
Them trees you have to put in for the new occupancies. Because the landscape plan was passed, that's what we have to put in per the development.
But when you're replacing trees,
So the village only replace, all we plant is maples, locusts, linden, and elms.
And those are the lower quantity you're gonna
Okay.
see in price. The,
Okay.
like 550, the shade bark hickory and stuff, that's all new occupancy. Those 4 varieties that was, recommended by, a couple arborist companies as far as street trees, what's tolerant of salt and everything else like that, and a tight space with the sidewalk. But those are your lower dollar trees, those are probably $239 on that list.
okay, thank you so much.
Yep. Yeah, I can.
He did.
So we're looking for a motion? Can we come back to that dollar figure?
$32,199.00.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the expenditure of $32,199 for the trees needed.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the 2023 tree planting for $32,199 even. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. The next item we have is consideration of a motion to accept the resignation of Library Board Member Dawn Nelson.
So, I believe that resignation was submitted to you, President Pfannerstill?
And I sent it to the library director.
And the library board did. They also, even though it's your appointment, the village board, they did accept the resignation as well.
And having received that, I mean, it's a resignation. It's someone that doesn't want to do it, so I would make a motion to accept the resignation.
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Dawn Nelson from the library board.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the resignation of Dawn Nelson from the library board. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried.
Real quick before we move on with that, so the next steps would be that the president would bring you a nomination, and the board would approve it, and then go to the library board and become a library board member.
When are the meetings?
Only for the remainder of the term, if it comes before the term ends.
When are the meetings?
It's normally the second Thursday of each month at 5 p.m. We just had ours this past week.
We took the vote, right?
Yeah. She's officially.
Announcements.
I have a couple announcements here. So Nixon Park will officially be closed September 5th. We put out a memo on constant contact. I saw Lake Country 411 grabbed a hold of it, and that is for, if you recall, that's for the parking lot and a driveway. And then we're also going to redo the paths throughout the system, and September 5th, we also have the new playground coming in for Nixon Park. So that park will be pretty busy. We're actually closing down the paths, the driveways, everything is gonna be closed down. I know we had some people questioning why the paths have to be closed. We're just trying to minimize people in that park so we can get this done before the snow flies.
Are we gonna have it completely blocked? Like,
Yes.
So I did see someone mention they want their son's senior pictures were gonna be there. They will not be able to get in.
They will not. We're putting snow fence up on Cottonwood by the path. There's gonna be snow fence from the bridge on East Park. It's gonna wrap all the way around to the baseball diamond.
You could suggest that they come in by canoe.
To clarify, we will still have the ice rink though, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
One other thing, Hartbrook Bridge will be coming in on a semi on Wednesday, and that'll be lifted into place, and the old one will be hauled away. So that's it's coming. We're hopefully gonna get that thing up and running when we get the ADA ramps by the start of Arrowhead Schools season.
Just a couple updates. Ambulance inspections were last week on the 10th. So new inspectors this year. They went from 1 inspector for the whole state to 4 state troopers now, and he's been banging a lot of people on a lot of things. He was by us for an hour. He told Julie that he wants her to come with him and give a class on how to properly have all the paperwork together. And he dinged us on just a couple of small things. They're all fixed and replaced, and we're up and ready to roll again. Today was the last day of the auction. So the ambulance, the old ambulance, sold for $53,200. The pickup truck sold for $4,010, and the cot we got $5,875 for. The ultra high pressure unit again only had a $1,500 thing on it, and I put a $10,000 minimum on it, so that did not sell. We're gonna do some research and see what we can find to do with that. So we'll let you know in the near future.
Thanks, Chief.
We had our National Night Out events on August 3rd. It went extremely well. Unfortunately, Flight for Life was unable to attend this year due to a emergency response they were called out for. Thank you to Sarah Renningkamp for organizing this event, and we hope that everyone's able to join us next year for National Night Out, which is now scheduled for August 8th of 2024 from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. in Nixon Park. Village President Pfannerstill, Village Manager Bailey, and Chief Misko met with Zimmerman to further discuss the building study. Zimmerman will be looking into some ways to reasonably cut some of the costs and some other potential locations. Zimmerman will present us with their findings in the near future. Waukesha County Communications Dispatch continues to work on its staffing crisis at a slower rate than what we had hoped for. They have held interviews and hope to make hires in the near future. And the Hartland Police Department received a $2,000 grant from the We Foundation to go towards our squad camera system. The entire cost of the squad camera equipment has been covered by grants from the state of Wisconsin, the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, Quick Trip, and the We Energies Foundation.
Thank you.
Starting on September 18th, Monday, I don't know if this is on. I apologize. There we go. Starting on September 18th, which is a Monday, we're going to have our ADA ramp installed at the library. So the right-hand side of the entrance will be blocked off. Patrons will still have access to the library by going the left-hand side. And more recently, we had our children's librarian submit his 2-week notice. His last day will be this Friday. He's taking a management position in Pewaukee, so we're going to miss him. A lot of my job recently has been making sure the job posting was put up and trying to figure out how we're going to do story times, because if you know me, I'm definitely not a story time person most of the time. So it'll be a fun challenge for myself and my staff. So we're looking forward to that, and we're hoping to get people in to interview as soon as possible.
Thank you. Anybody?
The National Night Out was awesome. Spent most of the evening there. Very well run by our police officers and our fire department and DPW, so thank you.
With that, we have, upon a duly made motion to proceed into a closed session, the board pursuant to Wisconsin statute section 19.85, section 1, subsection B and G, shall conduct public business as hereafter specified, namely to confer with legal counsel for the village who is rendering oral or written advice regarding an anonymous letter received concerning the fire department, and consider whether to investigate into the matter further. Following closed session, the village board may either adjourn or reconvene in open session if there is any action to be taken in open session other than adjournment. To go into a closed session, it would require a roll call vote.
Trustee DeBoer?
Here?
Trustee Schlager,
Aye.
President Pfannerstill,
Oh,
Aye.
and Trustee Hoffler.
Aye.
we gotta do this again, no?
We gotta
We gotta do a motion.
I'll make a motion that we go into closed session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to go into closed session. This would require a roll call vote. And a yes means go into closed session. A no means do not go into closed session. Yeah, we gotta do
Yes.
it one time.
Yes.
Pfannerstill is a yes.
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 Go into closed session. And we are in open session. Are we live?
Yep.
Okay.
I think so. Ben, we good? Yes.
So we just came out of closed session. We're now in open session, and as our agenda indicated, and as was stated before we went into closed session, we would reconvene into open session if there was any action to be taken in open session other than adjournment.
So then, yeah. Item 13.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to hire 5 Bugle Training and Consulting to do a fire study on the Hartland Fire Department per discussion in closed session with a stipulation of the cost not to exceed $10,000. If so, then come back to us with details.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to hire 5 Bugle or contract with 5 Bugle to do a study on the fire department in an amount not to exceed $10,000 without coming back to the board first if it were to be over $10,000.
Correct.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. We will contract with 5 Bugle.
Make a motion that we adjourn the meeting?
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This meeting's adjourned.